people want to see. It's an act. You know that.
Oh, baby, look at us now.
Tell me that there's nothing going on between us. Tell me if I'm crazy.
Oh, baby, look at us now.
If you love her,
I don't.
well, if you ever do, that is when this ends.
This thing we can do it ain't working out. Why can't you just admit it to me? Oh, baby, look at us now. Baby, look at us now.
You know, do you think it's time to add a little fire?
Don't overthink it. I'm the fire.
We can make a good thing
Hey, Jennifer Walden here for Mix's 2023 Emmy Awards season virtual event, talking about the outstanding sound mix on Amazon Prime Video's Daisy Jones and the Six, Track 10, Rock and Roll Suicide. Joining me are Emmy-winning re-recording mixers Lindsey Alvarez, CAS, and Mathew Waters, CAS. Last year, they won an Emmy for their mix together on Only Murders in the Building. Hey, Lindsey. Hey, Mathew. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Hello.
So Daisy Jones and the Six, Track 10. It pivots around this huge concert at Soldier Field in Chicago. So what's your approach for mixing these live concerts? Like, what tracks are available to you on the dub stage? You know, do you have split tracks of all the instruments, or is it like a mixed track with no vocals? And then what's your approach to making the pre-recorded tracks sound live? Like, what goes into your special sauce?
Oh man. Well, yeah, it's multiple sources really, depending on track to track or, song to song. So, majority is pre-recorded tracks, and we are provided stems. However, from the pre-record that they did in the studio, it went to our music mixer, Mike Poole in Nashville, and he was able to, mix hundreds of tracks into stems. For me, that's like drums, bass, guitar, organs, vocals. And so I received those, and from there I put them in the space, and so for that episode it is the Soldier Field in Chicago. And yeah, the fun part is mixing for that huge stadium where you can have fun with delays, playing with the perspective, it's like you take it where when I used to mix music back in college, it's like you start with the vocals and then you're like, all right, the drums. And, he had done such an amazing job mixing the music, but then I'm like, oh, okay, well now we're in the live music feel. So when you go to those concerts, they're like boom, boom, boom. You feel it in your chest, and so you just want to give the audience that vibe on their little screen. But yeah, no, you have fun with it too, and mixing next to Matt, we're always having a good time, and the balance that he does is also incredible mixed against the music.
And Matt, you're working on the crowds.
Yeah, so on this particular show, I was working on the crowds, and Lindsey had some group crowds, and I of course had some Mark Rillier, the sound supervisor, and his team edited crowds, and the tricky part on that was there was a couple tricky things. One is they first come out into Soldier Field, and you want it to be, this is the culmination of 10 episodes, and you just want it to be so big and so crazy, like just to give you goosebumps. And so we had to make it that, but then we couldn't be too big because we had to be the biggest at the end. So we had a long way to go. We had like 20 minutes to go. And then how within that do you tell the story of getting quiet, hearing them on stage? How much does the crowd go against them to keep the excitement up? Don't lose the excitement, but hear the dialogue. And, there's some intimate moments there. And then also, we're really good at, we always have a mic on our mix stage. So, there's never enough voices. So, we had everybody come up and sing the song, and, they did a great job prepping it for us, but hey, we're here. So let's all get in there. And when they start singing the song and stuff like that, as Lindsey said, she's been to concerts, I've been to concerts, and you really wanted that. It was really important to make it seem as real as possible. It was a big deal to us, and it was difficult, and it was fun, and still keep that excitement up, and then when the score takes over, I don't know, it was awesome. But you definitely wanted to feel like after 10 episodes, it was almost a documentary. Like this was a real band, and they did play at Soldier Field, and that is the footage from them.
And there was that great sing-along, Look at Us Now, right? So
that's Lindsey and I. We sang it. No, there was other people.
Wow, you guys sounded like, I don't know, how many people were there? Like 30,000?
Well,
you couldn't have too many.
Yeah, the fun part with that is thankfully when they were shooting, the sound mixer, Chris Welker, captured, it was like, I think 100 extras on the day. And you had Frankie Pine, our music supervisor, teaching them the song. So she's like, singing the lyrics, they're repeating her. And so we have maybe a couple takes of that recording, from production. Then we have Loop Group, which this is Mix Magazine. Everybody knows what Loop Group is, but just in case anybody doesn't, it's, recording some actors in a studio, a nice sterile environment, but you have some, control over that. And then once, we worked with that, like, doubling up maybe, but, doing variations with pitch and time compression, expansion, just so it's all, a little different. And then we need to like top it with something else. And that was us. So we bring the mic up in the room. And, there's quite a few of us on the stage because at that point, it was like a playback day. And we're like, all right, guys, this will be the icing on the cake. Let's sing.
Yeah. We probably sang it like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
It was and it's great because we're out of tune. So it really it sounded real.
Speak
like,
for yourself.
Everybody else was too pro. We were like, oh, yes. And on a side note, too, it's also good to get those different layers and different dimensions. So, we could and Lindsey could put some way in the back or distant, a lot more verb, and then some up close. And of course, the feel of the entire audience and everything like that. It was so fun.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
I think I can hear my voice in like one little shop. I'm going, who I am.
Now, I have a question, Lindsey. Did you ever push yourself just a little more than everybody else?
We didn't have ourselves individually mic'd, which was good.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
But no, that was a fun part of the show to mix and to work on. And it just kind of happens. And then the song actually, the actual singers sing and you're like, okay, good. We're back to them singing, but it's a nice.
And the fun part with this crew and all the people we worked with, whether they be the showrunners and Mark Relier, the sound supervisor, and all that is, everybody realizes that the mix stage is a stepping stone. It's not like everything's done and we're just transferring the material. We're always concentrating on how to make this better, how to make this feel more, how to make this give you goosebumps. And when it wasn't working, how do we do that? We do that as a group and we have a lot of fun with it. It's good. It's very creative energy. It's a creative vibe in the studio. It's not just very sterile.
Yeah.
We like to have fun.
Yeah, especially for these big concert scenes, you feel it. It doesn't feel canned. This feels like a real crowd singing along with their favorite band.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Good.
That's cool.
And then, so there was, so near the end of the concert, Billy like calls out each of the members, here's Eddie and here's Graham. And so that must have been some fun too, because during the mix of that, you got to push those individual instruments a little bit more as he's parading around the stage calling them out. So I thought that was really great too. I really appreciated that.
It's so true. And that's a fun moment because the band they were actually playing. And so that was a bit of a task because, I think they cut around his dialogue just so we had that. So you'll hear a bit of like the drums and cymbals and guitars because they're the ones like with giving the energy to that moment of the introduction of the band. And so you're just like, ooh, here we go. We've got it's opening up. And so that was a bit tough to mix because, you're getting a lot of bleed with our, pre-recorded tracks as well. But I think we pulled it off. And plus, he whispers into the bass player's ear and we're just like, can you hear that? Can anybody hear
Yeah.
Just making
Well,
sure.
I will definitely say I love the way you mix that, Lindsey, because being a person who saw concerts in the late 70s and early 80s, that was always a big deal. They'd always introduce the band members and they'd get their little riffs and solos. So it really felt real to me.
Yeah.
And then Lindsey brings up a great point when he goes over and talks to Eddie and basically tells him, you're done here or whatnot. That was a complete whisper. And when we first played it back, I'm not always, we're always trying to be cognizant of the dialogue. We're like, did he just say something? What? And so then how do you keep the crowd up? How do you keep the excitement up? How do you keep the music up and still hear that line of dialogue?
Yeah.
And that didn't happen easily. That was a trick. And that was a lot of different trial and error. And we got it. And it came out great. But yeah, that was when we first hit, we're like, what are we going to, because if you drop everything for the line of dialogue, then there goes the momentum to get to the end.
Yeah.
And so that was fun and it was difficult, but it was great.
And it's still read as a whisper. And the bass is like super loud right there because that's his moment, It was so good. It was so good.
Exactly. So it's tricky.
It is Eddie's moment. Poor Eddie.
Poor Lindsey.
Poor Eddie.
Yeah. I mean, you had to deal with the whisper.
Yeah, poor Lindsey and Matt.
Yeah.
There's some other like live type moments. So they're doing sound check. I loved this. You can hear like the front of house mixer like yelling, like give me some more of that. And then there's like Eddie playing a few notes on the bass. So how did your approach to like making that feel live differ from what you did for the concert?
Well, that one, it's a little different there because, we're actually in the stadium, in the seats, and they're far and distant. So we're just like, oh, well, this, and they're the only people there. It's not a lot. So you can have a lot of sources for the sound to bounce off of. And so it's just fun, and we had our music editor, Amber Funk, on this, and she was like, oh yeah, let's put some bass practicing in here. And so you just like push it way back, bring up the delay with, Slapper is one of my favorites. Shout out to those guys. And, you're just bouncing all over the room there. And then, Matt had all the other things like the actual setup happening. So it wasn't too distracting because after a while, the voice going check one was a bit like distracting in that moment. So we're like, all right, let's take that out. But Matt can still carry it.
Yeah, I mean, that was the fun part of that sequence. Just like she said, Slapper is our love of life in that moment. And but really, it's concentrating on making it sound like it's alive, but staying away from everything. So that's inevitably the trick, and that takes time. And then finding, you just didn't want it to say check 1 2 for 3 minutes while they were talking. So just even putting an amp sound in or putting in just hearing the little bass riff or little drums. And then of course the movement of anything. But again, getting out of the way when they're talking and that's really important too,
Yeah. Building the background for that really sold the idea that, it's a sound check and there's like other people there, but not a crowd. But yeah, listening back to it, like, you can hear all the little like pieces happening off screen. And I thought that was really cool. It really sold the moment.
And what was fun too, when we got there too, is we wanted to, how you get to a concert early and you start to get excited.
Yeah.
We kind of wanted that, a little bit of that feeling too, like, oh my gosh, they're really going to play here. So it was fun.
So what was the most challenging scene for you mix-wise, and what were some of your challenges on this episode?
I mean, I think you brought up one of them, which is the crowd singing. That was like one of the toughest ones for me. And then just approaching the episode overall, because you are dealing with an episode with, however many songs that they do or perform, and not getting fatigued. Making sure the audience wouldn't get fatigued with music because it's just almost nonstop. But it can't feel like that. And then putting them in that space. Like, not that I was dreading the episode, but there have been a few movies like biopic films that have come out, and you're just like, oh, that sounded great. And then just watching, concerts on YouTube, because I love watching concerts on YouTube. Like people's recordings, you're just like, oh, and ones from back in the day. One I bring up is Queen, when he's at Wembley Stadium, Freddie Mercury doing Under Pressure, and he sings, audience sings, and they repeat after, and I'm like, oh my God, I wish I was there. So like, I was just like, I hope I can achieve that feeling and that vibe. So, I mean, really is just like, not the entire episode, but just like, I'm glad where we ended up. I'm glad everybody was happy. But yeah, almost the episode as a whole was a challenge.
Yeah, and I think as I said before, the biggest challenge was we've been with this band from the beginning, and whether it be with the crowds or the music or how they sounded in certain, like episode 3, I think it was, they're in Hawaii in a music fest, and there's only like 200-300 people there, and so again, you're just trying to continue this reality, and then again, don't overshoot it too early in this episode. And then when it's huge, then they have all the whispering talking.
Yeah.
And so that was we've already been over it, but that was challenging and it was fun. And then, but that, that's why we do this stuff when it's challenging. It's fun.
Yeah.
We like to do it.
I also love the contrast of energy in this one. You have some really emotional moments, and then you have like these big concert moments that are supposed to be just like huge and fun for the band, but there's all this tension in there as well. So, I thought you did a really good job of expressing all that, as well as like all the technical stuff, like getting a whisper to play over really loud bass.
Yeah, thank you. And I thought also they did a great job with the picture editing and stuff, like especially when Sam runs away and they're singing and like go. I mean, there's just so many moments that were emotional, and it was great. It was a lot of fun to work on.
Mm-hmm.
So I've like really enjoyed actually the entire series. I really loved all the episodes. I loved the build of the show. So of all of the episodes that you could have picked, why did you pick 10 for Emmy consideration for sound mixing?
I mean, probably because first it was just the most challenging for me on my side, and I think on Matt's side as well.
Me too.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's just the most challenging, especially to hit it in a spec that we're given. It can't be theatrical mix. Sorry. So yeah, I think, but also a very fun episode. I think people will enjoy it, and so yeah, I think for me.
I also think from a storytelling aspect, in the end, we're storytellers, and there was a lot of story we had to help wrap up and keep the emotion going, and it was difficult. That was the challenge. And so, some of the episodes or some TV shows, they don't have this momentum that this one did, and this one.
It's just always tough. It's a tough thing to do, to pick an episode to submit, and I think you just want to showcase something where you're like, I mean, I know we're so proud of it, but it was also difficult, and yeah, so I think it features all the fun things that mixers love.
Well, and plus, people will hopefully watch it before they vote, and then they'll get to see a really great episode.
Yeah.
If they haven't
They'll
seen
be
it before.
entertained.
They'll be entertained.
And if this was their first episode that they watch, maybe just for voting, I guarantee they're going to go back and watch the rest of it because there's just so much story in there. You're just like, whoa, like what's happening, you know?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's the hope.
Awesome. So Lindsay, you were saying that like you really wanted, like you really enjoyed the feeling of Queen, you know, and Freddie Mercury getting that like callback. And I think you guys definitely achieved that on this. These songs feel so real. This makes this band feel so real and this crowd feel so real. I mean, you just totally buy into it. At least I did, you know.
Yeah.
It's got the energy. So you guys totally nailed it. Well,
Thank
congratulations, man, on a really great show and a really great episode, and best of luck at the Emmys this year.
Thank you,
so
Jen.
much.
Appreciate it.
Mhm.
It's fantastic. Thank you.